The name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich, and I'm going to be your host. The show originated quite a few years ago by my father-in-law, Norman Liss, and I'd like to start off this show with a poem that he wrote in 1994. It's called How to Live. Do we know how to live? Life is not a porous sieve. Moments do not just pass through, they stay on as a part of you. Do we know how to savor? Every instant has its flavor. A taste just isn't here and gone, but continues living on and on. Do we know how to enjoy? Life is not a crude alloy. Each moment in itself is pure, rich and clean, right and sure. Today's guest is my father, Max Bendich, and he can also tell you how to live. He's 98 years old. He's living life, enjoying it. He's optimistic, and he's in the studio tonight. Welcome, Pop.
Welcome, Alan.
Yes, it's good to
How
have
are you?
I'm wonderful.
You're wonderful. That's it.
So, I guess actually I might wear the glasses tonight because I actually took notes with me for the first time. This is your fifth show.
All right.
But I'm trying to, I really want to thank LMC TV for allowing, programming like this to actually exist. And, this was, it's quite the treat to be able to sit with your father and learn about his life, and actually to be able to share this with the community and with the family. So we went through a lot of different things over the last 4 episodes, but there's a couple of things that we left out. We discussed, you're a veteran of World War II, right?
That's right.
Right, and you were stationed in Europe during World
Right.
War II, right? And in one of the episodes, you were discussing how you helped save. You met some young children in France who had been orphaned because of the Nazi occupation of
Right.
France, right? And they were Jewish
Yes.
kids. And when the war was over, before the war was over, you actually said goodbye to them, right?
Yes.
And
And they took my address to write to me. I never thought they would write to me, but they took my address, and that's it.
And then what happened? So when you came back to from, you were stationed when? In Germany at the time when you left? What was the last place you were stationed?
In Germany, in Berlin.
And then you came home.
And then I came home.
And then, so what happened? I mean, what happened with Cecile? That's the question. Because Cecile and her sister were people that you actually helped during World War II. Did you ever bump into them again?
Before anything happened, I was in Paris, and I went looking for Jews.
No, well, we talked
Right,
about that. No, but I'm
and
talking
that's how
about,
I met her.
Right, we discussed that in the last
discussed
episode.
that.
Right. So I'm saying, what happened when you came back to the United States?
When I came back to the United States,
Right.
Mom and I just talked about her,
Right.
and we didn't think anything about it. We didn't think that she was going to ever come.
Right.
What happened to her? She was adopted by a doctor,
Right.
and she had opulence. She was rich and everything, and she hated it.
Right. So she was
She was adopted.
And her sister?
She and her sister.
Right.
The doctor's wife was Cecile, and he asked the agency for a girl by the name of Cecile,
Right.
and they said they had someone with a sister.
What this agency, was that just specializing
I don't
But
remember.
probably I would imagine that if they were trying
Jewish,
to help Jewish
it's a Jewish
an
agency.
agency that was helping the Jewish orphans from
And they looked
Europe.
up their records, and they found a Cecile, but a Cecile with a sister.
Right.
And he said, I'll adopt both of them.
Right.
And they lived at 96th Street and 5th Avenue,
Right.
a doctor.
Right.
And she had everything she wanted. But all of a sudden, one day, there was a knock at our door, and I opened up the door. I think I told you that before. And who was there? Cecile. I didn't know it. A beautiful girl. Max? I said, my God, Cecile. I grabbed her. I kissed her. Mom was in the kitchen,
Right.
looking at us, wondering. I hit me with, and I came over to her and I said, Dorothy, she didn't look like this when I first saw her.
Yeah,
And
she was just a little girl when you knew her, right?
And they became very good friends.
That's good.
Why? Because my wife, Dorothy, sent clothing to her, and
Right.
I brought food to her, and she had a better life than most of the people. And one day she decided she's going to leave them. And that was a shock to us. How could you leave in 92nd and Fifth Avenue? They weren't used to that, opening the door for them and doing this, and they left.
Right.
And after that, we didn't hear from them until a long time later. We get another letter. And that other letter told us that she's living in Muncie or whatever, up in Westchester.
Right.
And married, and she has a child. We went up there to see her, to see them.
Right.
And it was unbelievable when I think of the times when I saw them in that barracks, scared. Why? Because I came in with a gun, and here they are, a life of peace, everything going fine.
Right, I remember because I went on that trip with you, and we saw the kids, and we'll actually show a picture of that. We'll show a picture on the screen of that. Okay, so that basically ends. That's the last time I think that's the last time we saw.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
The end.
Okay. Now there's a story that my son wanted, wished that we had talked about in one of the episodes, and it was about a motorcycle. So maybe you could talk about the motorcycle story from when you were in Europe.
I'm walking, a soldier.
Right.
I'm walking along the highway. I'm in Paris. I was by myself. And all of a sudden I hear, Max! I turn around and there's an MP on a motorcycle, a sergeant.
And this is like in the 40s, right? 1940, what?
That had to be 44.
44.
And 45, the war was over.
Right.
And I come over to him, and Muncie, his name was a Monday. We embraced. We didn't see each other since basic training.
Right.
I went over to the Signal Corps. He was part of the Signal Corps too, but they transferred him over to become an MP.
Right.
And then he took me in that, come on, I'll tell you, where you going? I told him where I was going. And we were talking, and we get on that motorcycle, and he starts going, and I'm holding on for dear life. Please don't have an accident. And he's laughing. I'm going slow, going about 1,000,000 miles an hour. And finally, he takes me over there. I thanked him. I said, never again I'll be on a motorcycle.
That was the first time you were on a motorcycle?
The first and the last time.
The first and last. Okay. So we got through two of those things. Okay. Now, I guess that really ties up the loose ends of World War II. So I guess you came back, and what I'd like to talk about is some other things we missed, okay? We missed talking about some of the children. And the children I'm talking about are really your children-in-laws. Like you have two grandchildren by the name of Michael and Gaby, and they have two spouses. They have each have a spouse.
Yes.
There's Michael's spouse is Sally.
Sally. And Gabriel's
is Kim.
Kim.
Right. So
and Michael has 3 children.
Right.
And Kim has 2, just really recently, maybe a month or 2 months.
No, the baby's just a few months old.
A few months old.
And it's Lila, and she's beautiful.
Lila.
Right. But basically, like, I guess Kim and Michael met, Kim and Gaby met in Georgia, I guess, in Emory.
I think it's Ames, with that in Georgia. I don't know where it...
Right, but I think, wasn't he going to Emory?
Emory. Emory is in Ames.
Right.
And they met in Ames, and Emory.
And they were the first, I think they got married before, I'm pretty sure they got married before Michael.
I really don't remember, but they got married.
And Kim, they were both, I guess, going for
both
masters.
Consultants.
They were going for Masters of Public Health, I believe. Something like that. I think that's what it is. But I guess Kim decided to go on a different route, right?
And Kim one day, out of the blue, she tells Gabriel, I want to be a doctor.
Right.
So Michael is there too. He says, what are you talking about being a doctor? He said, look, you're a doctor, Cynthia's a doctor, that's David's, and your uncle, your brother is a doctor. I want to be a doctor.
Right.
Michael takes over and just says, don't.
No, well, I think Michael was encouraging.
Not even encouraging.
He was
and
encouraging.
And she goes to medical school.
Right.
And she becomes a doctor.
Right.
And she's a doctor.
Right. And Gaby is now, I think he's a vice president now.
There was talk about it.
I think he is.
I really don't know, Alan.
Right. And his brother Michael is a doctor. He's a cardiologist.
Is a doctor.
And he met Sally.
And he has Sally.
Right.
and they have 3 beautiful children.
Right.
And the 5, now it's 5 great-grandchildren.
Right.
Every one of them, the flower of my life.
That's it. One's prettier than the next.
I
Right?
didn't want to say that.
They're all gorgeous, and they're all smart, and they're
The women
wonderful.
are the most beautiful women in the world, girls in the world.
Now, we also forgot about Cynthia. I mean, we discussed a
Yes.
little bit, but David and my brother David met Cynthia, I think the first week that they were in medical school in 1971
And that was in Buffalo.
in Buffalo, right? Buffalo Medical School. And they've been together for 42 years now.
And they're
It's
together.
unbelievable. 40, could you believe it? 42 years. And she's a doctor. She worked for Merck, right?
She worked for Merck,
Right.
and then she quit Merck, and as a she was a doctor.
She was a
but
doctor, and then she
became so big
I know.
that she was almost up for a vice presidency.
Right. But, you know, and she did very well for herself.
She did very well for us, better than being a doctor.
Yeah, well,
you know,
that's it.
With the
Financially,
Merck,
she did
with
better.
the Merck stock and with
And going all over the world, and
got
they lived a
3
wonderful life. David and Cynthia had a wonderful, wonderful life, and they still do.
Where she traveled.
Yes.
She got
Frequent flyer miles.
frequent flying. And who took the frequent flyer miles?
David.
David.
I know. So they
did.
saw the world, and they had a wonderful time, and they still do.
And they took me 2 times.
Yes.
They took me on a trip
Yes.
with them. We went again to England.
Right.
And
To go back to where you were stationed.
where we were stationed before.
Okay, so that's actually a good transition, because Mimi, who's my sister, Miriam, mentioned that reminded me that Michael, who's my nephew, my first nephew, who was born in 1971. Wait a second, 1971? Yeah, 1971, in July. You took 2 trips with Michael. One of them was during the time he was looking for medical school, and you went to Florida. So tell me about that trip.
So he didn't. Miriam said, "Please, Daddy, go with him." So I went with him to Florida, and we went into. There was a lecture going to go on in one of the colleges. That the college was giving a 3-year medical instead of a 4-year, and we were thinking, ready in 3 years he's going to be a doctor.
Right.
And the first thing everybody's sitting there, and the dean comes out. He says, "Listen to me. Everyone, look to the left of you, then look to the right of you, and look in front of you. And what do you see? You're going to see everyone who's a doctor. When you leave this school, you're all going to be doctors in 3 years."
Right.
And we left, but he didn't go to that.
Right. He wound up going to downstate, which was
he
even
went to
nicer because he was local.
And
He was
went
in
to
Brooklyn.
downstate,
Great
and that was the
school.
best thing that
I
happened to
know.
Mom and to me.
Right.
We traveled to him, and we came back and forth.
Right. My parents, my father drove up until the time he was probably about 95 years old. He's 98 years old now. So he was able to drive back and forth all the time. He spent so much time. And okay, the other thing is, we'll talk about that, going back and forth to Mimi's house. But the next thing is that Michael and you went to France, right?
Michael and I go to France. Zadie, they call me. I want to see if everything you told me it's the truth. So the first place we took him to was 59 Avenue, Cleveland.
Right.
And that was where we were stationed.
Right.
And he's taking pictures of me, and it's an apartment house
Right.
that the Germans had taken over. And every place, as I told you before, place the Germans took over when they were thrown out, we took over. So now it's an apartment house. And he's standing in front of me, maybe about 10 or 15 feet away, and all of a sudden he's going like this now. Well, I don't understand. What happened? I turn around, and a lady is coming out of the. I see that.
But coming out of what?
Out of the building.
Right.
And I turn around, we stop taking pictures, I walk over, but she starts walking away. I miss her. But as she's walking away, we decided we're going to. We know at the end of the block was a patisserie or whatever it was. They had those French breads that and we decided to buy a French bread. So we're going behind her. She goes into the bakery, and we're going into the bakery. She comes out and she starts walking back. And we walk back with her. She goes into the house, and I run after her, and I grab her, and I say, "Please, I want to talk to you." And I tell her that this is the place that we were. We were in the offices, and she says we knew there were offices. And please come up. I said, no. Why didn't I want to come up? It's an apartment house. We knew that building as an office for the Signal Corps.
Okay.
And memories.
Okay, now
and
the
Michael
other thing.
wait, and as I'm talking to her, Michael is taking pictures of, and we have their pictures of.
Okay. Now the other thing that Michael mentioned was that you went to Normandy.
Oh no. So, another trip, we decide to go to, I want to see the graves.
The cemetery, right.
The cemetery, that's a word. Fine. So we go to Paris. We rent a car, and we start going to Normandy. We go to Normandy, and we're riding, and all of a sudden we come to a place, a cemetery. A vast, Alan, it's a shame, 4,000 Americans in one day. When they hit the Palisades, they were killed. And if I think about Michael is a Cain.
Right.
A Cain, why? Same as a Cain. A Cain is a Jewish priest.
Right.
And they're not supposed to go into a cemetery.
Right.
Not supposed to. When I took him to Massachusetts to see he never went in. This time he goes in. So we were going and we're looking at the graves, and he sees and he starts picking up stones, and we're going only to, there are about 140. I forgot. They don't know who they are. Unknown soldiers.
Right.
Unknown soldiers, and he put rocks on top of all those unknown soldiers' graves. So the people asked me, "What is he doing?" I said, "Look, it's a custom of the Jewish people to put stone, and some of them have crosses.
Right.
They're unknown soldiers. How do you know if they were?"
Right. That's true.
Wait, the people started to. It was such a sight.
Okay.
Alan, it was a beauty. And we went to Normandy.
Okay. Now, again, the other thing, I guess, another part that I'd like to talk about is that we used to go every weekend, especially first of all, Michael, and when Michael was first born, Mimi used to spend a lot of time with Michael.
Yes.
You spent a lot of time with my kids also when they were first born. But we always used to spend every Sunday going to the house, right? And what would we do? We'd go visit Mimi in Long Island, right?
We would first of all, we would have fun. We would play canasta.
Right.
And I think it was you and Michael.
No, me and Gaby.
You and David against and me, Michael.
You and Michael, right?
I thought it was.
No, it was you and Michael and me and Gaby. And Gaby and I used to what? Cheat.
You say if you put up your hand like this,
how many aces do you have?
And if you have,
yeah, so Gaby would go like this, and that would mean how many aces, and I'd go like this. Well, let's say, but it would be all silent, and you still won sometimes.
And we tried our best. And Alan, I had fun.
We had fun.
Alan, I think everything was done for me. Right. Why? The father's a father.
No, everyone had fun. We would go there every weekend, spend so much time with the family. Mimi opened up the house every weekend for all of us.
Every weekend. Oh, I have to tell you, with Michael and Gabriel, they liked cartoons.
Right. No, comics.
Comics, excuse me. And about a mile and a half away was a comic store. And Alan, we left everybody there. Yeah. We went over there. They called it gallivanting. We were gallivanting. And every Sunday, he still has those comic books.
He has probably thousands of comics.
And how many times? Every week?
This big cardiologist has thousands of comic books.
Every week, Alan. Every week we would go.
And Gaby too, right? Gaby would come?
It was a pleasure. I had fun, and I still have fun with my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. Now it's going to be now they're men. They're making children.
I know.
Except my two grandchildren and your children.
Right. Well, Aaron's only 19 years old.
Right.
And Kara's 15. So I hope they're not making children yet.
No, but I have hopes.
That's it.
The branches are coming up.
And you spent a lot of time with my kids also.
Just think of it. 2 months ago, a new branch was started.
That's it. A few months ago. That's right, Lila. But even I do. When I first I married Wendy, and then a few years later we had Aaron, and Mom was still alive back then.
Yes.
And Mom would spend, 3 days a week watching Aaron, and those are very memorable moments and you used to come too. And what would you do? I mean, you'd go and come back, and what would you do with Aaron?
I put him in a chair, in a carriage,
right?
And I'd walk with him, and I'd sing Yiddish songs to him.
Also, you sing Old Man River, and you sang all kinds of things.
And Alan,
I know.
There were another couple who were following us.
Right.
They heard me sing, and they knew the same songs that I
They
did.
were from the same place.
And
They went to Camp Unity together. They came from Camp Lakeland, and their names were Liz.
And their names were all Liz.
Just like Wendy's.
The same name. But they loved me. Why?
Yeah.
They saw me, that they knew that I'm taking care of my grandson.
Right. And they knew the songs.
And they knew the songs. And I told them many times, I want them to know a few Yiddish words before everything is.
But those memories are very dear to me, and they're very dear to Aaron. And you spent a lot of time, we moved from Yonkers when Kara was just, a few months old, I guess, and we moved to Larchmont.
That's right.
And but we were very close to you guys because you lived in the Bronx, and we spent a lot of time over your house. And Mom used to love. Oh God, Mom was love. That's what she was. And she really loved the kids, and she loved. I mean, I just remember her face lighting up every time that Kara and Aaron would come in. And
so you can imagine what kind of life I and Dorothy and my wife led. When I take a look at you and the rest of them, we are optimists. We feel good.
Right.
The family is together.
It's wonderful. Now, I know you have some other diversions in your life. I mean, one thing you enjoyed was playing bridge a lot. And,
we also, when I retired, I found out an organization called Senior Citizens.
Right.
And they're all over New York, the Bronx.
Right.
And I joined the Senior Citizen Club.
Right.
And
I know that was something that you wound up doing.
And I knew how to play bridge before.
Right.
And
I remember even before you were a senior citizen, I remember when we were younger, you actually, I think, used to go to a club. I remember when I was still like a teenager, before you joined all these senior citizens clubs, at Bronx House you used to go to, used to play.
Well, first of all.
And you also used to play with your brothers. You used to play with Joe and Aaron and their wives, and they'd kill each other while they were playing, right? I mean, tell me about your brothers playing bridge. Give me a break.
I want to tell you about you. Bronx House. We bought a piano. We sent you to.
Right. But I'm talking about bridge right now.
I don't care, but we bought a piano for you.
Yeah.
All right, and we played bridge.
But I remember you used to play with Aaron and
Aaron and Joe.
Right.
But with Joe more, because with Aaron, he was a world famous scientist.
Right.
And he went all over, and he didn't have enough time to be with us. But with Joe.
But didn't you also teach bridge for a while?
Excuse me.
Teach bridge.
Oh. No, the only time I would teach bridge
Right.
is when the teacher would go away.
Right.
And I made it my business. I still have books. I am in Kittay House.
Right.
I still have books in Kittay House of bridge.
I know.
And
I remember you trying to teach me how to play bridge, and it never quite stuck.
I don't.
But,
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
You used to have David, my brother David, playing Mimi. You try to teach everyone. Mommy, I guess you played honeymoon bridge, I think, a couple of times, but that didn't work out.
It was a different time.
That's it. So I'm just trying to think of what other stuff at this point. I mean, we had a good time. I mean, it was a good time. I mean, you always had a good time. You had a good time when you were a kid. You had a good time. I mean, you had a good time all your life.
I always wanted to travel.
Right.
And it never occurred to me, the United States. And Mom would say to me, I don't want to go in an airplane. I don't want to do the Mac, the most beautiful country in the world is here. Look at it.
Right.
And we decided one day to look at it.
No, I remember.
And we went and we packed a.
You came to visit me.
And I'll never forget the first. You people, you, David, and Miriam, was scared.
Right.
Here I'm going away. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to go 90 miles an hour. One thing we forgot to say. Where did we go? Motel 6.
Right. No, I think
Motel
you discussed
6.
it. That was Motel 6 was your
favorite. Was a stopping off. Why?
Right.
It was the cheapest.
Yeah, when you used to try, but it was nice. They had
It was nice.
It was nice. And again, you came from a background where you'd never even considered traveling, and you'd never even considered going to a motel. But when you came to visit me, you found a friend at Motel 6. This is not a commercial for Motel 6, but that was all you ever stayed at.
And the first one was about 300 miles.
Right.
I traveled that first day. 300 miles in Ohio. We went into Ohio, Motel 6, and then from that time on, it was...
Right. So, I guess we're pretty much... I'm trying to just think of some other things. I mean, when you were a kid, we don't have time right now for that. Maybe we'll talk about that in the following episode. But I guess, you spent a lot of time with your grandchildren, and you spent a lot of time with Mom. And I wonder what Mom would think of your great-grandchildren. I mean...
No, well, look, I don't think about that. Again, she knew, as far as we are teaching our children correctly. Why? Because we also knew that there's going to come a time when we're not going to be here, and they know what to do. They will live a good life. And what kind of life they would... One word is the most important word: peace. Right. Alan, that's what was on our lives, and Mom would always...
And the thing is, you look at today, and it's that word is not really spoken that much in the world today. It's... what do you... I mean, today is such... you read the news today, Dad. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it? 98 years old, lived only for peace.
Well, again, if right now I am living in a like a senior place,
right?
And how do I live again? How
do you look at what you're out? I mean, when you see what's going on in the world, I mean,
and I'm telling you, whether my two grandchildren, Aaron and Kara, your children, I think are going to have a harder time than my other great-grandchildren, because the way times are happening now, and jobs are, even for here, college people, and they're looking for jobs also.
And they're taking like minimum wage jobs.
No,
too.
I don't want to say.
Terrible.
I don't want to say that.
Right.
But when I was a child, you go to college. You go to City College. It didn't cost anything.
Right.
It didn't.
It's a different time, Pop. Even Cooper Union, I think, at this point, which for
Cooper,
years, Cooper Union was always free.
I had a friend.
I know, but
who went to Cooper Union.
That's great. Now, unfortunately, Dad, even wonderful conversations like these do come to a close, and it's. I think we covered a lot of different things that we missed before, which is good. And I think, the next episode that we're going to wind up doing will be really about what's happening now and what the future looks like for you. So I'd like to say thank you for being on the show, Dad. I love you.
I love you.
And that's a wrap. Good night.